4 years ago, you can make a strong case that NXT was the best promotion in the world. Like, you guys were selling out major arenas in America. The talent you had, the storytelling, it was fantastic. Honestly, over the last year, when you saw what had become of NXT, what did you think?
I didn't necessarily agree with the creative direction sometimes. And that had nothing to do with Sean or anything else. When I stepped away for health reasons, and there was already pressure to change the direction and change what it was. And that happened. I knew what the changes were. I don't know that I necessarily agreed with all of them, but I do think that there are a lot of changes that happened that were extremely positive for the brand, and I would have liked to have done anyways, that I think a lot of people would have gone, no way he would have done that. The brand turned into something else different from what its original intention was. Part of that was success of it. Part of that was pandemic, right? The brand changed in the pandemic. People forget that for 2 years, maybe over that, we couldn't recruit. I couldn't train athletes. I had no place to train them. We moved, all of our training became a television studio to shoot Raw and SmackDown in. I had all these athletes under contract. Anybody that already didn't fully understand what they were doing and how to execute it wasn't learning because there was no place for them to train. We medically weren't even allowed to put them in the building to let them train, right? So, and if we wanted to, we had no place for them to train because the training facility was a television studio. That massively changed what it was, massively changed where it was headed and what it would become. At the same point in time, NIL comes along, and the way we could recruit and train athletes dramatically changed. Sometimes people look at it and go like, well, they were recruiting, stars from other places throughout that whole time. I've always looked at talent as the same. Whether you've never stepped through the ropes before, you have a talent that I think we can capitalize on and bring to the best of its ability. Where you've been doing this for 10 years, you have a talent I think I can cultivate and bring to the best of its ability. It's the same thing to me. We just lost the ability to take anybody that wasn't already doing this at a high level and work with them. That changed the nature of what NXT was and would become. And over time, it just kept heading further down that road because of where we were with the pandemic and everything else. It needed to flip back. It needed to, when NIL came about, for us to be able to go into these markets now, collegiate athletes, which is this massive pipeline of people that for a lot of them have thought about doing this their whole life, but how do you go about becoming a WWE superstar, right? If you're smart, you play a sport that can pay for your college, you go to college, you finish up, you get a job coming out of college, and then you try your hand at getting trained by somebody, or on the flip side, if it's something that you really want to do. Creating that pipeline for those collegiate athletes, which is this massive pool of talent, is game-changing for us. And that is exactly what we're doing right now. We're the last 2 or 3 large recruiting efforts we've had and tryout systems we've had have all been collegiate athletes. That doesn't mean we're not going to hire. If somebody finds a different path into the business, no matter how long or short they've been doing it, and I think that person's talented, fits what we're looking for, and I want to work with them, come on in, right? If they're working somewhere else and they have a skill set and now they're no longer under contract, and I think we can do something with it, come on in, right? But the core of what we're going to try to build is these collegiate athletes that we start, first day they step through the ropes, many times is with us for their tryout. But the level of professionalism, the level of, when you take a D1 level college athlete that's been trained at a high level, is coachable, that understands what that work ethic is and everything else, the level of professionalism is completely different. That's what we're working with now, and I think it's why you see Braun Breaker doing so well in such a short period of time. It's why you see Tony D'Angelo doing so well, very short period of time, Tiffany Stratton, all. I can name a list of people that are in NXT now, and as you see NXT ramping back up, if you see NXT now, you look at some of those people and you're like, wow, this person stepped through the ropes for the first time 6-8 months ago, and they're doing this on live, on national television, being seen globally, like 6-8 months in. It's crazy, you know?
So just curious, there was that story, and that's why I appreciate you being here and maybe putting to rest some theories out there. NXT went head-to-head with AEW. It couldn't beat them. We're going to punish it. Was that a real thing?
No.
Nonsense.
No, look, we do, people put so much pressure on all this competitive wars. It never was that. Look, first of all, they beat our developmental system. Good for them, right? No, it was never that. It was never, there was never even a pressure of like, oh, you have to beat that. Like, it was never that. It's put on the best product we could. Like I said, it shifted over time. During the pandemic, all of that shifted over time. And the opportunity for us to change it back to what it truly was, right? When you look at a lot of the stars that have come through that system that had either started from zero or very little exposure anywhere and then became massive stars with us. God, it's so many people. And we had lost the ability to take those people and groom them from the ground up. We really had. And it's the biggest change that's out there. I'm proud of where Sean and that team have taken that, even under circumstances where the change happened and was massive and all at once, and they sort of kind of got this jumble thrown at them and had to go out there and take that and run with it. The job they've done is amazing. And now I think you're starting to see people begin to, they got a clean slate, and all these athletes you'd never heard of and never seen before, and they're green and don't know what they're doing, and they're out there doing this. You're seeing it now start to pick up tempo again and start to become what it is again. I truly believe in that brand still. I think you'll see that here as well. Like the decision to pull NXT UK back, it's the right decision for us. We had plans to do what we're going to do now, then, right before the pandemic hit, and it took it all away. So we weren't able to do that. Our partnership with BT allowed it to stay on the air the whole time. But the truth is, it was totally different from where we wanted it to go. We're pulling it off the air now so that we can get to NXT Europe, because it's tough to do both at the exact same time, to continue to operate a product but build a new product around it. We're going to pull it off for a little bit. We're going to bring NXT Europe back in a bigger way than it ever was before. And the intent is, hopefully, if we're successful at it, to replicate that. So it's NXT Europe, it's NXT India, it's NXT South Africa, it's NXT Mexico. Be able to take those products, put them around everywhere, and eventually over time to build brands in those markets locally and build World Cup scenarios around that, where they're competing on that level all over the globe, and that tide then feeds into Raw and SmackDown. It's in essence, if Raw and SmackDown are the NFL, NXT at all levels is collegiate football. It's amazing football. It's just, in some ways same as the NFL. Some people like it better. It becomes that, but it's all a feeder system to the overall picture.
You're a byproduct of the Monday Night Wars and the Attitude Era and all that stuff. And that was a great time to be a fan, right? And it was a great time to be in the business. And fans kind of miss some of that, and they want to bring that back. And there's now maybe a second option, if you will, for the first time in a very long time. Do you pay attention to what they're doing? Do you consider them competition? I remember asking Nick Khan himself this very question last August, and he said, no, everything is competition. Entertainment is competition. So I'm just curious, for you, do you consider them specifically as competition?
Again, and it's funny, I've heard Nick say that, and I've heard people say to him, well, it's a cop-out answer. It's not a cop-out. Everything is competition to us. If we pay attention to everything, you have to. Do we pay attention to AEW? Do I watch it on a week-to-week basis? No. Am I aware of what's happening there? To a degree, right? I'm not following everything they do. There's sometimes I'll see that somebody would say, well, this is very similar to what they do. I'm like, I had no idea. Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to focus on what you're doing, right? You have to focus on your product. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. If people want to watch that product, there's nothing I could do about it. There's nothing that's going to prevent me from doing that, right? Focus on my product, make my product the best product it can possibly be, and I have confidence in that ability. For this team, for the amount of people, for the talent that we have, I'll put our talent against anybody. that is how you are successful. Monday Night Football is a massive thing for us. We pay attention to that. Absolutely. We pay attention to all sports that are on television. We're very strategic about where we put our events and how, not because we think, ooh, we'll try to block that, or ooh, we think we'll do this. Like, no, we're going to put them in the places where we think we will do the best business. That's all that it is. There's nothing more to it than that. And I think that is where people get lost in the small thinking of what happens on a day-to-day basis. It's the much bigger overall picture that needs to stay in front of you of where you're trying to get to.